Hey y'all. Thank y'all again for joining me on Tari Talks. This week's episode is self-care. It was requested by my cousin. Thanks, Venus, um, for me to talk about self-care this week. So yeah, I know that's really important, especially around these times. Especially for the essential workers, making sure that y'all get that self-care and keep y'all immune systems up while y'all are taking care of us and our loved ones. So shout out to all the essential workers, just to go with that. But I'm gonna jump right in on the topic self care to make sure I allow time to take care of my own self care. Um, so I wanted to start off with self love. I feel like self love is basically the core of self care. I feel like without you don't really have to have it 100% down pat. I don't know anybody who does have self love 100% down pat, but to make sure you're always checking up on it, making sure you're working on it, making sure that you love yourself and you're continuing to strive for that goal of 100% loving yourself, everything about you, the flaws and all. And it's important to lead off with because I feel like if you don't love yourself, like either at all or enough, or if you don't know how to love yourself enough, then you won't know how to properly self-care. You won't know how to properly take care of yourself the way that you need to. So to talk about that for a little bit, you always have to kind of make sure, and I use friend talk a lot. I think I mentioned this on the pilot episode, because I struggle with self-love and self-care so much, but I give a lot of love and a lot of care to a lot of other people in my life. So with friend talk, I basically make sure that, if I'm making sure somebody else is care for themselves, right? If I'm giving advice to other people, so I give good advice to everybody else, you know what I mean? I know a lot of people can agree with me. Like, you might give like solid gold advice to all your loved ones, your family, your friends. But when it comes to me, I'll tend to be like, oh, I'm okay. I mean, I'm definitely doing better about that in the recent years. But that's something that I just have not been good at. I would even like to be better at that. But like, self love is basically making sure that you love yourself, you embrace yourself, you love the things that you can't change, love the things that you can change while they're still there, but knowing that you still can change them if you don't like them. Like, you don't have to accept anything, but still loving it. Like, loving that rough phase. Like, you can be like, oh, I don't like my short hair. I cut off my locks and started completely over. I don't like my how short they are. I can't wait for them to be thicker and longer and stuff like that. But I love the journey. I love the journey that I'm in. It's a part of my self care. It's a part of helping me to love myself better. You know, and embracing every part of me, every phase of me, every phase of my life, every phase of anything that I'm doing. And so self love just really gets deep. It's like, you know, liking you enough and loving you enough. And it's starting that, like, you hear it so many times. People say, or, how can you love someone if you don't even love yourself? I honestly think that that's true. Like, I don't think that you can love people properly unless you know how to love yourself. Because if you if you don't know how to love yourself enough, then it's like, okay, you like, what do you got to gauge? Like, because like the golden rule that everybody know is treat others how you want to be treated. But if you don't treat yourself well, you might not, like, you got to care about you more than anything. So you might not care about other people. With me, that's the opposite. But you got to think about it. It's still bad if you don't really love yourself or treat yourself that well, but you treat everybody else like perfect. that's toxic. That's bad too, because there's no limit. There's no limit to what you'll do for someone else, meaning there's no limit of what you'll take from yourself. So definitely love yourself first. Like putting up those barriers, being able to be like, I love me enough to make sure that I have limits. This doesn't happen to me. I can love you properly because I have limits. Because it gets into what we talked about previously, crippling people, being their crutch, enabling them, stretching out too far that to the point where it don't help them. It just makes them dependent and makes them not to the point where they will even want to try to do for themselves. So, it goes both ways. It can be bad both ways. You can not love yourself enough to where you're not loving other people properly or enough either, or you're not loving yourself to the point where you love them so much that you continuously just sacrificing yourself. So love yourself, put you first. Like that's gonna always come up in a talk some kind of way, because with mental health, like that's what it is. It's all about you. Like your mental health is all about you and every part of you and everything you got going on. So self-love, let's start with that. Check it out. Ask yourself, do I like me? Do I like spending time with myself? And this gonna lead us into the next little category of going through all the phases of self-care. Like, if you don't like spending time with yourself, like you can be an extrovert and just like, I don't like to be alone, and that's one thing. And I'll say that in self-love, you got to really know the difference between being alone and being lonely and not wanting to sit with yourself. So being alone is just like you by yourself. It's not bothering you that you're by yourself. You're simply that. You're alone. It's not sad. It's just nobody's else around. And you going on about whatever. Like you can still function. You can still do whatever. You can do things that you like, whatever. Being lonely, that's when you're not okay with being by yourself. And you want to kind of explore that and kind of see, well, why don't I want to be with me? Why do I want or need distractions around me to be okay with myself? Like even the most extroverted extrovert needs time to themselves. Like I talked to a friend who I think they're one of the most extroverted persons on the face of this earth. Like they are extremely extroverted, and I love it. I love the energy. But still, at times, they need a day or they need a moment to take to themselves. And they're okay in that moment with being alone. And to kind of pinpoint it, if you say, man, I'm so lonely, like, yeah, think about it. That's when you can kind of be like, oh, I don't like, being by myself. Why? If you say lonely more than alone when you're by yourself, you want to explore that. You want to figure out why. You want to figure out what the issue is there. And you want to try to resolve it, because you want to be okay with being with yourself. You want to be okay with being by yourself and getting to know you more. We evolve as people. Like we change with the world. Like something I don't like 3 months ago, I might like it 3 months. Like now, like different things happen. So like you want to always keep getting to know yourself. And you go through so many life events. You want to still get to know yourself. You want to know that you're okay. You want to know that you love you. And even if you did something bad, you want to forgive yourself and love yourself even more to help heal yourself. Like, it's really important. That self-love, that's the number one thing. Once you got that down pat, or you have that to the point where you're acknowledging it, you're being aware of it, you're assessing it, that self-love, then we go into personal space. So, all right, you're like, I love me, I'm either okay with being alone, I'm working on being okay with being alone. Now, there's time for personal space. Personal space is whatever you want to do with your personal space. Like, allocate time in your life for personal space. That's if you just want to chill at the house by yourself and not be bothered. That's if you want to go get that mani-pedi. This is the part where everybody just like, oh, self-care. I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna get that mani-pedi. Like, whatever it is, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes your heart smile, allow that personal space so you can be able to do whatever. I'm talking about read a book, any hobby, like even if you don't have a hobby, figure out what you into. Find a hobby. You know what I'm saying? Like, find something that is gonna make your heart smile. The more your heart smile, the healthier your mental health is. So that's basically the trick right there. Like, using that mental space and that personal space to kind of explore all these things of, allowing that time to be by yourself, to figure out the difference between the alone and the lonely. Allowing that time to travel. Like, everybody doesn't want to do the exact same thing as everybody else all the time. So allowing time, like if your family or friends don't want to do this one thing and they're just like, oh, we don't really like that. So every year y'all went on a trip that it was okay, you weren't really fond of, but you like, okay, I'm here with the family. I always wanted to go to this place, but nobody ever picked it. It was always against it, but I really like this. Like, everybody got their own thing. So use that personal space, use that time to go and explore this thing or do this thing that, like, these other people didn't do. Because I know a lot of people, and even me sometimes, I've literally in the past, like, not done something. Like, I'll take a simple example. I like cartoons. I've always liked cartoons. As I became an adult, I knew the difference between adult cartoons and children cartoons. But also it was the nostalgia behind it, especially certain cartoons that just reminded me of my childhood, reminded me of like the innocence in it. And it would just put a smile on my face. It didn't matter if it was like silly or anything like that. Like, I'm like, nobody is too grown for cartoons. And if people think that, like, oh well, that's their opinion. And that's how you should be about everything that you plan in your personal space. Like, any other opinions out there, external opinions, what other people think or you do with your time, like, it don't matter. Like, that should honestly be a full-fledged type of thing. Like, in life, you'll be a lot less stressful, have a lot more patience when you care less about what people think about what you like doing or what you want to do or what you're into. Like, that has nothing to do with them. So, do you, be great. But yeah, so I like cartoons, and I dated somebody that hates cartoons, and it was funny to me because I was just like, dang, like, what did cartoons ever do to you? And it was actually nothing. It was just like, they never watched it, and so they never got that connection as a child. So as an adult, they were just like, oh, it's just silly little kid shows. And so we weren't pulling from the same thing. I was pulling from nostalgia. I was pulling from, my childhood, the warm, happy feeling I got when I watched cartoons from my childhood. They didn't have anything to pull from. So, I can't blame them for how they feel about cartoons, even though I was like, man, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it was something that I sacrificed when we had movie night or when we watched TV together. Like, I sacrificed cartoons and scary movies, which were two things that I really, really love. Like, I love scary movies. Like, thank God my person now loves scary movies too, because, like, that's all we watch. We watch scary movies. I still watch, cartoons. They don't really watch cartoons, but it's the fact that now, even if the other person don't watch cartoons or don't really like it, I'm still watching cartoons. Where in the past, I would be like, oh, okay, all right, we're not gonna watch cartoons, to the point where I got so distant from it, I struggled to start back watching it. And I was like, dang, that's messed up. Like, how do I go from really loving something, and spending my time, just, passing time with something that I really love, that brought me joy, made me think about, like, the good times in my childhood, to not doing it at all just because somebody else didn't like it. Like, you have to protect, your personal space. You have to protect your personal interests, what brings you joy, what makes your heart smile. Like, use this personal space to do all of that, to reaffirm that. Like, it's really important to feel good. Like, they say laughing is good for the soul. Cartoons, for me, like, cartoons literally, like, make you laugh. They make me laugh. Like, I watch Tom and Jerry. I give an example. Like, I don't care, Tom and Jerry, SpongeBob, y'all give it to me. Like, judge me, I don't care, and I definitely have been judged, but I protect that personal space. I'm like, this is what they do for me. So don't take that away from me. Or better yet, let me rephrase that. Not don't take that away from me. I won't let you take that away from me anymore. Because in the past, I have let people take different things away from me. And I'll just like, all right, I guess I'm not into that anymore. I guess I'll be into it and be like, yeah, I like this. But I wouldn't act on being into it. And that's not okay. Like, it could be some stuff that your whole heart is into. And I'm just using, like, cartoons because it's a simple example. But just to show, like, how simple the thing could be. Like, whatever it is for you, it could be anything. Just make sure that you protect that. Make sure that you allow that time, your personal space. Even when you get in relationships and stuff like that, like, you definitely want to make sure that you have your personal space and time then, because when y'all, like, working and y'all got a lot going on, and then when y'all finally get a chance to, like, spend time with each other, it's like, well, okay, it's always some kind of compromise, because you like, what do we want to do? What do you want to watch? I don't know, what do you want to watch? And it's like, y'all trying to find something that y'all both like. Well, if you don't carve out that time for that personal space, that personal time, like, and allocate some time to that, like, you will always be in a mode of compromising and not some type of fully me thing. Like, fully paying attention to me, fully giving to me, fully caring for me, and not having to consider another person. Like, you do that enough in a relationship, it's a us thing. You you consider, like, when y'all eat dinner, like, all types of things. Like, it shows up so much, once you come, like, join two completely individual people together, and y'all start to compromise. Like, something's always a gain and a loss there. It's, you just gotta make sure that in that gain and that loss, in that compromise, you find that personal space to be able to say, okay, with this time, with me, with my personal space, I will not compromise. I will do whatever I want to do. I will watch whatever I want to watch. I will be whoever I want to be. like whatever. And so that personal space gives you that gives you that warmth in your heart, that gives you the smile, that gives you the joy in your heart that you need, and it reminds you who you are. And I don't like to come across like, oh, like, you can't be who you are in a relationship. Yes, of course you can. But everybody is not like, don't have everything in common. So that personal space helps you to be able to, that little circle where it's like, okay, this in the Venn diagram is what we don't have in common. That gives you time to do that. And every now and then you can explore your interests with your person or your family or your friends. Every now and then they'll do the same thing. But you just always making time to be able to give to you. Okay? So, all in a nutshell, self-care is really just making sure that you have the space to care for you, to do for you, to explore all your hobbies, to find new hobbies, whatever it is. It's yours. Don't think about anybody else. Be selfish in that personal space. It's all you. Stay to you. And then it goes into the third thing. I want to say consistency. Checking up on that self-love. Be consistent with it. Always check in with yourself. Checking in on your mental. Check in on your self-love. Check in on how you feel about yourself on a consistent basis. Like, if you don't do that, like, you'll go from 1 year, I love myself to death, and I checked in on myself 2 years later, and man, I don't like me. I don't like what's going on with me. I don't like, how I'm being now. Like, that's important. It's important to be more consistent than every 2 years. You'll catch whatever sooner. You'll kind of prevent a lot of stuff from happening, or, even depression and a lot of mental health issues from happening, if you can be consistent with checking up on your self-love. And being consistent with allowing that personal space to be able to know what you like, and to be able to do the things that you like, what you like, only you, and not something that's considering somebody else. And I want to kind of touch up on and get specific with relationships, because no matter the relationship, whether it's romantic, family, friends, when you're in a relationship, and this might more so be like a romantic thing, because I know that's something that's like important to me. Like, romantic relationships, they're so different from one person to the next. If something don't work out one person to the next person, like, they're so different. They're so, like, you have so many different trials and tribulations that you go through in a relationship. It's in a romantic relationship especially. It's important to make sure that you're being mindful of your self-love, being mindful of your self-care. And then, like, one thing I want to say is, when you get out of a relationship, a lot of people get lonely, and they just like, no, I'm not used to being alone anymore. And the people that say that, like you said, alone, but if you're like, I'm not used to being alone anymore, I want to be in another relationship, that's where you probably switch to lonely. When you just trying your best to like jump into another relationship because you don't want to be alone. And if you don't want to be alone, it's probably because you're lonely. Or, I mean, it could be because, you're like, I'm getting old, I want to go ahead and settle down. That's another thing. But what I want to say is, before you jump back into another relationship with a completely different person, if your relationship ended, whether it's on good terms or bad terms, you've gained some things and you lost some things. You gained some wisdom, and you kind of lost yourself. Not in a bad way, not saying like, oh, you changed, like, you changed up, you switched up, you not you. Like, it's not necessarily saying that, but some things were affected. Some things did change with a lot of compromise and different things where you like accommodating for another person and stuff like that. Like, some things do kind of change. And then if like heartaches and different things were going on, like, yeah, like, you got to check on you first. So, like I tell everybody, when you get in a relationship, you with somebody for a while, and then y'all relationship end, get back in a relationship with yourself. Okay? This really helps that self-care. This really helps that self-love. Like, get back in a relationship with yourself. Like, checking on yourself. Are you okay? If there were some things that you did that you're not proud of in that relationship, have that time to restore that self-love, to forgive yourself, to go through that, to process through that, to see what you need to do to be a better person to yourself. And this is being your best version of you and what you think your best version of you is. You know, if you don't want to cause no problems, cause any harm, heartache, or hurt to anybody else, like, this is something that you might do. I do it constantly. Like I said, consistently. We're all in this consistent category here. Like, you gotta consistently do this. Hopefully it don't take a bunch of breakups and everything, but if you do end up breaking up with anybody, or they break up with you, or however it ends, whether it's a friendship, whether you and your family stop talking, whether it's a romantic relationship, spend some time with yourself instead of saying, oh, I'm gonna go find me a new best friend, or I'm gonna go find somebody who I can call my sister or my brother or my uncle because I fell out with this one, or, you know, I'm gonna go get me another girlfriend or another boyfriend. You want to date yourself. Go to the movies with you. Right, like, spend time with you. See how you doing. That's a good way to see how you doing. Get by yourself. See how you doing. Check up on you. See what irritates you. See, like, you can see what changed about you. And you're like, I wasn't like this before I dated so and so. So why am I doing this now? You know, and that may be something that, you know, you lost a little bit of yourself that you want to restore, or you learned something from a relationship that you not necessarily implemented in the next best version of you, and you want to work on doing that. Like, I've done both. I've gotten hurt so bad that, you know, I had to get into a relationship with myself and love me better, because even though it wasn't right for the person to do me wrong, I still needed to basically, like, find more love for myself, because I know, like, I let some stuff happen that I should not have, or I gave too many chances, you know, reached a breaking point and still went further, you know, trying to make it work. Like, that self-love plays a lot, you know, in that. Because if you love yourself more, you like, you know what, I don't deserve this. This is not okay. And you put it into it. You can put it into it, you know. And I know it's hard sometimes, because love is a dangerous thing to mess with, and you'll grow weak to different things. But, you know, keeping that self-love up, you want to be stronger. You don't want to carry hurt over to another relationship. So you get in a relationship with yourself, and you process through all that, and you let all that go, so you won't bring baggage into another relationship and potentially cause issues that would have been avoided had you had the time to process and gave that time to yourself. And then, like, after being in a relationship with yourself, getting to yourself, restoring your heart back, and even taking that wisdom that you learned, like, oh, I did this wrong. I literally destroy, like, I break down my entire being after any relationship ended, and I say, no, I can't change what they did. All I do is I forgive them. Whether they apologize to me or not, I forgive them. I forgive them for me. That's very important. The forgiving somebody, that's for you. That is not for them. So holding on to these grudges, like, let this stuff go. Find your peace. Keep your mental health. They are not worth it. No one is worth it. Like, keep your mental health, keep your peace, let this stuff go, whether they apologize or not. So you forgive these people, and then you look at what you did right, that they probably said, no, I don't like the fact that you're doing this. If you evaluate that and know that you okay with that, you keep being you. You stay your core. You know, some people just jealous hearted, you know, trying to keep you to themselves. Like, you know, that getting on the line of abuse. Like, you gotta come on back and make sure you stand your ground and keep yourself. And then for anything that you did bad in a relationship that you're not proud of, like I said before, forgive yourself and work on trying to make sure that you prevent that. So that next relationship, it got a better chance. It got a better fighting chance. So start with self-love, work on that, make sure you're good with that. Get that personal space, find time for yourself, do for yourself, find hobbies, enjoy the hobbies that you already have or had for the longest. Not considering other people, be selfish in this. Make sure it's stuff that you like, you want to do. You can share it with other people, but make sure you're doing something with you. Don't modify it for anybody else. That's what that personal space is for. You let it be raw. And then consistency, making sure that you just stay consistent. Like I want to say, I think I've talked so much about how I want this project to help y'all. And this is on the ending note. I didn't really explain how this project is helping me. So me being able to commit to once a week at least, every Friday at 11, that consistency, like me talking through different points, that's also reminding me of what I need to do for myself. I'm not perfect. I'm not good at it. I still struggle with it. So while I'm talking to try to help somebody out there, I'm also trying to remind myself of what I need to do for me. Like this week, self-care was a struggle. It really was. And I'm glad I did this week because it reminded me like, hey, you know, you lacking on some of the things that you're doing. You're not going to be perfect at it, but you always want to be aware of it so you can make sure, you know, you kind of try to put another foot forward and do better by it, because you going to be doing better by yourself. You're going to be doing well for yourself. It's all for you. So yeah, like, I mean, I honestly was like struggling, like I don't want to, I'm tired. I just want to sleep. This new schedule is crazy, you know, and I'm talking myself out of it like, man, self-care mean I can just go to sleep. I don't have to do this video. But no, like, I want to make sure I'm consistent in it. I want to make sure this platform stays consistent for people, and it also stays consistent for me to be able to remind myself of the things that I need that I often forget sometimes. So everybody needs a reminder, even if it's from yourself while you doing for others, you know. But that's my time. It's 30 minutes. Make sure that in self-care you remember self-love, you remember personal space, and you remember consistency. Thank y'all so much for watching episode number 2, self-care. I hope y'all enjoy it. Y'all get any more questions, just let me know. Y'all know where to reach me. Thank y'all. I love y'all.